Hello YouTubers, my name is Frederick Lopez and you are on an all-new segment of Hidden Gems where I go over films that I think are underrated or overlooked. And today I'm going to be going over a good old 1985 film called Once Bitten. Once Bitten stars Lauren Hutton as the Countess, Jim Carrey as Mark Kendall, Karen Copkins as Robin Pierce, Cleveland Little as Sebastian, Thomas Bellator as Jamie, and Skip Lackey as Russ. It is directed by Howard Storm. Once Bitten is set in Los Angeles. Our protagonist is Mark Kendall, a student who is unsuccessfully trying to get into his girlfriend's pants. He decides to go to a bar in Hollywood with his also virgin friends, Russ and Jamie, to flirt and score. Meanwhile, the 400-year-old vampire countess, played by Lauren Hutton, and her driver and butler Sebastian are seeking out a virgin lad to keep her beauty and youthful appearance. The countess needs to feed 3 times on a virgin before the Halloween that is close, otherwise she will look older in age. When the Countess stumbles with Mark in the bar, she brings Mark home and seduces him. Mark changes his behavior and soon realizes that he's turning into a vampire. So yeah, that's just a brief plot summary of the film Once Bitten. This stars Jim Carrey in one of his early lead acting roles of the 1980s, way before The Mask, Ace Ventura. This is early Jim Carrey before even In Living Color, really. And he didn't quite get to his character type of routine or just overall physical comedy yet. He's still pretty much a character of Mark Kimball. And originally, Michael J. Fox was going to be in this movie, but Sam Goldwyn Jr. at the studio didn't think Michael J. Fox could hold a film on his own as a lead actor, so they cast Jim Carrey. You also have Lauren Hutton as the Countess. And overall, this is just a bizarre, weird, strange film that's also a very funny film at that. It's a comedy. It's not really a horror film. And again, much like other 80s films, it's just something that's very much on its own. The 80s films and the 80s type of comedy could be a genre on its own. And Howard Storm directed this. Now, Howard Storm mostly directs TV episodes of shows, so he was most well known for directing episodes of Mork and Mindy. He later on directed Everybody Loves Raymond. He did that famous episode of The Car where Raymond's father drives the car through their house. So he's done quite a few TV shows over the years, but this was like one of his few, if not only, major motion picture as far as a film. And I think he does a great job here. Yeah, the plot is a little crazy, but, you know, I like it. It's a feel-good comedy. It's great to watch around Halloween. And it's nice seeing a younger Jim Carrey, especially before all his other iconic roles in the 90s onto the millennium. It's nice seeing a younger Jim Carrey. And the actress that plays his girlfriend, Robin, is great as well. She has a lot of charisma and really carries the film along with Jim Carrey as far as the younger actors. And I like the comedy. Pretty much it starts off, and he's trying to get into his longtime girlfriend's pants, Robin. Everybody's having sex around him. He's still a virgin, along with his 2 friends. And his 2 friends provide a lot of comedic relief in this film. They're funny onto themselves. But that is when he goes to a Hollywood bar. There's a lot of crazy stuff there. But then Lauren Hutton meets him, the Countess. And that's when she seduces him. And yeah, she seduces him, bites him, and that's when he starts to figure out that he has attributes of a vampire. He's beginning to look pale. He's beginning to be affected by sunlight. He craves raw meat. Different things like that. Even a lack of a reflection. They just have so much fun with it, and it stays true to the original vampire rules, and I like that. Is it quite like Friday Night or The Lost Boys? No. It's almost a parody in a way. The only other film that's probably close to being like Once Bitten, there's Love at First Bite, which is a little bit better, but you also have kind of like the comedy and Buffy the Vampire Slayer from 1992. That's the only other film I could think that's kind of like this, that's just funny and a whole bunch of stuff. And you also get a lot of just comparisons and just parallels of vampirism and sexual abstinence, really. It's strange. It's like virginity, vampirism, but not in the cheesy, just girlish glitter way that Twilight did. No. And yeah, the Countess finds it hard to find virgin blood. Everybody's just already having sex at a young age, so she can't find blood. Which, good luck with that, because it's going to be harder with vampires later with Twilight. But she finds Jim Carrey, so she has to feed on him 3 times. And then he would be turned to a vampire, and she would look young. She's really much older than she looks. She's about almost 400 years old. So you get a lot of good comedy there, and also a ticking clock set from the beginning to the end, with him needing to figure out a way to reverse the process, but also defeat the Countess, and so he wouldn't become a vampire and lose his first love. So really, you have Robin, his girlfriend, first love, and Lauren Hutton's the Countess, fighting for this one man. And yeah, it's one of the few films to have a fight over one man over a dance-off. Yes. Elaborate dance-off. Crazy, yes, but you can tell the actress who plays Robin has a lot of dance training. Such a good scene with a lot of physical comedy. You get to see a lot of physical... you get to see a lot of the physicality that Jim Carrey would later on have in films. And there's a joke there of him being a vampire, and he's like, I'm not wearing a costume. I'm not. And all that type of stuff, but it's a pretty good scene, and the song Hands Off by Maria Vidal's good. The theme Once Bitten by 3 Speeds, a really catchy song. All around it has that great 80s soundtrack as well. But besides his soundtrack, his girlfriend Robin and Lauren Hutton as a Countess, you also have her butler Sebastian, who provides a lot of comedic relief as well as her aide. And then you also have certain dream sequences that are very bizarre, that kind of play and poke fun at the vampire genre. His friends are very hysterical. The acting isn't 100% in this movie, but they are just, something about them are just so funny. How they tag along with Jim Carrey's character Mark. There's that whole scene in the shower where they're like, fags in the shower, and then when they see 2 vampire chicks towards the end, one of them's there is just like, you don't want to go with him, I'm nice and cute, and the other guy's like, fuck off! And it's just like so hilarious. There's a lot of stuff they get away with here for a PG-13 film, with some language and then some nudity as far as art. And yeah, it was a much simpler time. It's like, nowadays you have like certain type of humor, but it's really more apparent. It's not as subtle, and it's almost like they're trying too hard to have that type of humor, where here, 80s had an innocence type of humor. So I watched this with my mother when I was younger on Wham. There used to be like another channel of Encore, and there's a lot of stuff I didn't catch younger. So like, unless you know what they're talking about, it kind of just flows over your head. That's what the humor was like. It's very innocent, to where like, unless you know what they're talking about, it would just fly over your head. But yeah, they provide a lot of comedic relief. And then there's this one scene where they're at a washateria trying to hit on some chicks, and one of the guys ends up in a washing machine. Just crazy zany stuff like that. That's just like, you wouldn't find that in any other movie. Like, I can't explain it. This is just one of those strange films, but like, is it the worst film ever? Is it bad? No, not really. I mean, it's an 80s film. That's the best way I can describe it. It's an 80s film, and it's a feel-good movie you put on, you watch, and it's just like, wow, this is funny. There's like a lot of vampire stuff in there, and it just pokes fun at it. It's like a parody. So, if you like comedies, and if you like 80s movies, if you like vampires and like all the vampire mythology, and then if you're a fan of Jim Carrey, I would highly recommend seeing Once Bitten. It's a film not too many people know. MGM did it, and it's one of the rare 80s hidden gems, in my opinion, and one of the earlier Jim Carrey films. Way before he was in Living Color, way before Ace Ventura, before Batman Forever, before Dumb and Dumber, before The Mask. This is a very, very young Jim Carrey, and it's nice to see that. And also, he's not as physical as his later on films. It's not as comedic as far as just being larger than life. He's a very different character. In a way, it's almost like the early Jim Carrey before he got to the iconic Jim Carrey, but it's almost like an in-between of like his more dramatic work later on in his career, and then like funnier stuff early. And this is like early. So yeah, it's nice seeing his character. And Robin was so popular on Screen Test that they added that character on the poster at the last minute. So not bad, really. There's been other films like it. Love at First Bite. Buffy the Vampire Slayer kind of had the humor and stuff, like tongue-in-cheek stuff as the vampire stuff here. But yeah, it's not as serious or scary as, say, like Fright Night or The Lost Boys. But it's just one of those just like kind of like teenage comedies, really, that just plays upon like him becoming a vampire. In a way, it's almost like a little bit more serious, yet a little bit more parody version of Teen Wolf, but with a vampire, with him becoming a vampire. And yeah, again, there's a lot of stuff with like virginity and vampirism, and I like the way they defeat the Countess. For those who haven't seen it, I'm not going to go too much into detail over the third act, but it's a crazy third act, and they make fun of the vampires as well. Again, the Countess has all these vampire minions, and there's just some crazy humor there. But yeah, there's just a lot of different type of characters and humor and stuff that might not fly as well today, so to speak, as far as being politically correct. But it is fun. I like it. So if I had to give Once Bitten a score, I would give it a 3 out of 5, an 8 out of 10, and a B+. Once Bitten is a very enjoyable film, and again, if you're a fan of vampires, comedies, 80s films, or Jim Carrey, I would highly recommend at least checking it out, rent it, and if not, just find it cheap at a DVD bin and buy it. It's also on Blu-ray with Love at First Bite and a double feature pack from Shout Factory, so I'd highly recommend seeing it. It's an enjoyable 80s comedy, and again, the soundtrack, Hands Off by Maria Vidal, Once Bitten by 3 Speed. They have a couple of other songs as well, and they're going to be in the movie, but they deleted their footage. But yeah, it's a great soundtrack, catchy 80s music that you don't really hear too often, but just has that iconic 80s sound, and it's nice seeing Jim Carrey. I like the actress who plays Robin. I wish she was in later on stuff. It would have been nice to see her in more movies. And you also get Lauren Hutton here in a funny role as the Countess, and she's really kind of like the main character that carries the film along with Jim Carrey. So you have that, and then his friends, and then he has some parents too, and other characters, and there's just some funny gags and everything that make it just an enjoyable film. So yeah, check out Once Bitten. I give it a 3 out of 5, an 8 out of 10, and a B+. Once Bitten is not really twice shy. Once Bitten is an enjoyable 80s film, and again, the 80s, like many other hidden gems on my series segments here, they just have that timelessness that's just so encapsulated in the 80s, yet it just feels... There's just something about that time that can never be replicated. It's hard to explain. Something about the 80s had that certain amount of innocence, comedy, and just all-around charm to them that not many other films had in later or previous decades. So yeah, Once Bitten is an enjoyable film, and I just want to bring some awareness to Once Bitten. Some people have heard of it. Pizza Hut had a MGM deal where they had DVDs from MGM with like Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey and then Once Bitten, but not many people know about it, and it's a very, very, very early Jim Carrey film. So yeah, definitely check it out. And that's it for this segment of Hidden Gems. I hope you go and check out Once Bitten. If you have seen Once Bitten, let me know what your thoughts are on the film. And tune in next month on Mother's Day, in which I'm going to be going over the 1994 film Serial Mom, starring Kathleen Turner. It's going to be a killer time for Mother's Day in May.